NTV, where your news comes first. Central and Western Nebraska's most watched news. This is Good Evening Nebraska.
The race for 2016 Nebraska legislature is off and running for one Grand Island man. Good evening, Nebraska, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tanner Kaler. Jake is off tonight. Dan Quick is looking to replace Grand Island State Senator Mike Glore. Glore is just one of the many state legislators who will term limit out of office next session. Quick currently works at the Grand Island Power Plant and is a union president as well. Glore was originally elected back in 2008 and cannot run again because of term limits. Quick will officially kick off his campaign later this month. A Tecumseh woman accused of having sex with a 15-year-old student has been sentenced to at least 4 years in prison. Carrie Miller pleaded guilty to charges as part of a plea deal in both Johnson and Nemaha counties. The 25-year-old was also ordered to register as a sex offender for 15 years. Now, according to court documents, Miller taught at Johnson County Central High School and had a relationship with the teenager for about a year. The maker of one of the more popular fireworks this season is recalling its product because it can unexpectedly explode after it's lit. The company Big Fireworks issued the recall of both 1,000 Big Swords after getting 2 separate reports of the device exploding when it's in use. The company says if you have one, you should return it to wherever you bought it and get a full refund. Doctors at the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha have treated 3 Ebola patients and monitored 9. Now, with new cases of Ebola confirmed in West Africa this week, a multi-million-dollar investment to help fight the virus is on its way to the hospital. Nicole Goodrich has more.
Though it's been more than 7.
Learning from the pros, some kids spent a week at summer camp with paramedics and firefighters. The highlight of trauma camp came with a disaster drill as future paramedics, nurses, and doctors had to assess patients in the field. Many of these kids are considering careers in emergency services. Now, this gives them an idea of the education that's required and a taste of what it's like to help someone in need.
Because you get to see it like hands-on. You get to see truly how they do everything, what it takes to be, and how much work it takes in order to be able to actually do that kind of stuff.
In addition to playing the part of paramedics, kids learned what happens once the doctors take over in the ER. They also learned how police and paramedics work together at an emergency scene. To national news now, a dramatic security scare at the Washington Navy Yard this morning has been resolved without incident. But for many in the D.C. area, a report of shots fired immediately brought back terrifying memories of a deadly shooting there just 2 years ago. And while this time there was no violence, law enforcement say they're taking every threat seriously, especially ahead of the holiday weekend. Emily Schmidt reports.
All clear. In Washington, I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
Former Virginia Senator Jim Webb is entering the Democratic side of the presidential race. Webb made the announcement official today in a letter on his website. He wrote that it was time to get back to the basics of what he called good governance. Webb also pledged to protect national interests abroad and ensure a level playing field at home. Webb served as Assistant Defense Secretary and as Secretary of Navy before representing Virginia in the Senate from 2007 to 2013. He is the 5th major Democrat to enter the presidential race. Now on to one of Webb's opponents. Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign is revealing its fundraising numbers. His aides say the campaign raised $15 million since it launched in late April. 99% of those donations were under $250. Sanders' campaign hopes to raise at least $40 to $50 million this year. That's far less than the $100 million rival Hillary Clinton is looking to raise. Thanks to the backlash against Republican candidate Donald Trump, his recent comments about Mexico, the Miss USA pageant won't be seen on NBC, but it does have a new TV home. Cable channel's Reel says it will air the pageant on July 17th. Both NBC and Univision wanted to separate themselves from Trump's controversial comments on Mexican immigrants. Trump is part owner of the Miss USA organization. The pageant's hosts and most of the judges have also pulled out of the show. Military dogs that spent years in war zones are putting their noses to new uses by helping police in the U.S. to fight methamphetamine. The dogs are headed to 5 states, including Nebraska, as part of the venture that organizers say gives police a resource they couldn't otherwise afford and provides the retired military dogs a new mission. Off the clock, dozens of first responders gave their time in Omaha. The city's police force took on Omaha firefighters in softball at TD Ameritrade Park. Jeremy Maskell has more on the game's impact on Officer Carrie Orozco's family going forward.
It's not the College World Series.
Hello, normal. The weekend looks great, though. For the 4th of July weekend, fantastic weather.
Those cameras look pretty good, too. They're pretty helpful.
Yeah, some real clarity there. Nice stuff.
Thanks, Kent.
You bet.
Coming up next on Good Evening Nebraska, a billboard has 2 of the Cornhusker State's neighbors talking why Missouri is trying to recruit its next teachers from Kansas. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback says he's considering proposing a new religious objections law the state following the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to legalize gay marriage across the country. Brownback today also defended the state's refusal so far to allow gay and lesbian spouses to change their last names on driver's licenses or to file joint income tax returns. The governor said his administration wants to make sure such changes are handled correctly. Brownback has been a strong supporter of the state's ban on same-sex marriage that was reinforced by the 2005 amendment to the Kansas Constitution. You can advertise for just about anything on highway billboards, so how about teaching jobs? One Missouri school district is doing just that, promoting new jobs on a billboard in neighboring Kansas. Jade DeGood explains.
This billboard has piqued the interest of many in Kansas. Its call for teachers in neighboring Missouri.
State.
The Kansas Supreme Court will hear an appeal of a district court ruling that the state wasn't giving enough funding to public schools. And coming up next on Good Evening Nebraska, a man's unique obituary goes viral. We'll learn about the man behind the 2-word entry when we come back. A North Dakota man who was known to be a jokester in life is making people laugh even in death. As Droden Schroeder reports, he pulled off one last joke with his own obituary.
Novels can rarely sum up a person's life.
When we come back, Kent, we'll have a final look at your weather. Plus, we'll introduce you to the woman voted most beautiful trucker in the nation. That's next on Good Evening Nebraska. Welcome back. A trucking magazine has named a Pennsylvania woman the most beautiful female trucker. Overdrive magazine awarded Joanne Fata the title. She beat out 86 other truck drivers. Now, she is a single mom and a breast cancer survivor who has been in the trucking business for 15 years. She says it was a struggle in the beginning, according to Overtime magazine. Now, just 7% of America's 3 million professional truck drivers are women. Okay.
Pretty neat.
Yep.
Well, a good forecast for the weekend. Some areas right now getting some very heavy rainfall. Thunderstorms will continue to move across the region into Kansas. We'll track them and let you know if anything happens.
We'll keep updated all night, right?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Kent, and thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back for the news at 10. Join us then.